Welcome to Prepared for Parenthood, the podcast for hopeful, expectant, and new parents with little ones up to age 5. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Dueger, a psychotherapist, author, educator, parent coach, and married mother of 2. On this show, we'll discuss everything from the most up-to-date practicals of best supporting your young children, to thriving in relationship as a family, to more surprising topics around the psychology and development of babies from conception through age 5. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm thrilled to have you here today. Welcome back to Prepared for Parenthood. I am thrilled today to have our guest, Elly Taylor. She is an Australian parenthood and relationship expert. Elly is the creator of the groundbreaking Becoming Us whole family approach to well-being in early parenthood and author of the award-winning book, Becoming Us, The Couple's Guide to Parenthood, which I give to many of my clients. Elly has a background in relationship counseling and is a regular contributor for print, radio, and television. Elly is proud to have been an advisor for numerous university research projects and has spoken at many national and international conferences. She provides parenthood preparation and relationship education for birth, health, mental health, and helping professionals worldwide. Elly lives in Sydney, Australia, with her firefighter husband. There are 3 children and a menagerie of pets. Welcome, Elly. I am so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Stephanie, for having me. I love talking about
when couples are at the point where they maybe come to me or someone like me. There's a lot of resentment that has built up because no one's needs are getting met. And everyone feels like I'm putting in 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm doing more. I'm doing way more than I ever used to do.
Yeah.
And so often we talk about kind of the setting up of parents of you can expect that you will need to put 150% in pretty much all the time for a long period of time, that just trusting that your partner is doing so much, and hopefully they are not only pulling their normal weight, but stepping in and taking over some things that are harder or need to be done.
Yeah.
And also trust that you're doing as much as you can. And sometimes what it takes is just gratitude, noticing, like, thank you so much for getting me that meal tonight or folding the laundry or whatever they did.
Yeah.
That noticing and appreciating of what your partner is doing in those 30 seconds that you get to have the extra hug can really fill the well up. Everybody's so depleted. And so having those times of the extra long hug or the eye contact or the checking in, and also bringing in the appreciations of, I see you, I know you're doing so much. And even though it may look like I'm not doing as much, I really am too. That noticing and appreciating all through a couplehood, whether you're a new parent or a parent of a teenager or your kids have left the nest, that comes in so handy for parents, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely does. We actually have a nesting plan on the website. And I encourage parents to have a conversation about what is the priority for you. Because so often we can be putting in effort, doing things that we think our partner's going to appreciate, when in fact it might not be important for them. So it's like, what's your top 1 or 2? We could have 5, but let's just have 1 or 2 priorities that makes you feel okay. Is it the laundry folded? Is it that the washing up's done? Let's just start with 1. One of those things, it's really about knowing your partner. I remember hearing from a psychologist that I was training, and she was using one of the resources that we've got. It's like prioritizing different things. It was a mum and a dad, and the dad was focusing on what he thought was his partner's top priority and doing really, really well. And actually her priority was a couple down from that, and he was completely missing the mark with that priority. And so it was just a conversation about reorienting them to what's actually most important for you right now. And so he was expending an awful lot of energy.
Mm.
And it was such a relief for both of them to know that they could kind of redirect all that effort to something that was, in fact, in some ways easier and less effortful than where he was putting all his energy and effort into. Yeah, I think, look, parenthood is really an opportunity. I know it was for me. It was an opportunity for me to get to know myself at a much deeper kind of body level. I think I was very up in my head until I became a mum. And then it was very much in my feelings and very much in my body, because it was a body that I was not familiar with. It was doing things that I was not even aware that it could do. And it's such an internal journey. It's such an inward kind of focusing. And yet at the same time, we're trying to keep up with the outside world. And I'm like, as much as possible, just tune out the outside world and go inwards and create that space. But this is for fathers too. Like, we know that fathers have hormonal changes and brain changes that prime them for bonding with their baby. So we know it's not just mums, but it's fathers and parents as well. And I think the trick is, and this is where people like you are great, the trick is working with the changes rather than against the changes. Using these changes and going with these changes that are inviting us, I suppose, to focus inwards more and to focus more deeply and to create foundations that we might not have even thought about before. Like, what is our relationship based on? You know, what is my happiness based on? Because it's likely to be different after the baby comes. The way that couples cope before the baby comes probably won't work once they've got a baby. You can't agree to disagree. You can't shove things under the rug or kick the can because it's just going to keep coming up. You can't have the sort of conflict maybe that you had before there was a baby in the room, because they're so sensitive to the tension between their parents. And so we're forced to do things differently, but I think there's great potential, really great potential in learning what those changes are, knowing that they're normal, knowing that all couples are going through them, and how to work with the changes rather than against the changes.
Yeah. I feel like it's such a period of intense growth for an individual parent and for a couple and for the family. It's all happening at the same time. And like you're speaking to, pretty hard, if not impossible, to go back to your old coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And so I find that a lot of new parents who kind of haven't explored their inner world very much are pushed to do that. And it can be very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
again, at a time when there is already so much change happening and so many high needs happening at the same time. What do you invite people to do if, say, they haven't really explored that inner landscape very much? They've been someone who maybe tucks it under the rug or says, I'm not going to say anything or do anything. And perhaps the resentment is building and they're having a lot of uncomfortable feelings, because it can, like you said, lead to mental health challenges or a lot of conflict in the couplehood. What do you suggest for people?
I think starting to become aware of your own self-talk is probably a good place to start. We've all got that voice in our head. That's us talking to ourselves, or maybe our parents talking to us over and over and over again. I think that's probably a good place to start, is just becoming more aware of what we're telling ourselves, because those things are very, very powerful. Those thoughts drive our behaviors. So if we're thinking, oh, I have to do this, or I must do that, or we can tell ourselves things about ourselves, and we can also tell ourselves things about our partner, which also can cause a great deal of problems. A lot of conflict comes from what we're telling ourselves about our partner, rather than checking out with our partner whether what we're saying to ourselves is actually true or not. So I think becoming aware of that voice is a really good place to start. And then recognizing maybe the ways that's helpful or not helpful. So I talk about managing expectations is actually one of the stages in the new parenthood model. So becoming aware of what those expectations are. What am I expecting of myself? And is that reasonable? Is it reasonable that I can have dinner on the table tonight when I'm breastfeeding 24/7? Is it reasonable for me to expect that my partner can do something when they didn't sleep last night as well? Like really catching those thoughts and questioning those thoughts. I think that's one place to start. I think
And
another place to start, particularly for lactating parents, is to start listening to our bodies. This is something that we might not have done. I don't think it was something that I did much of before I became a parent. But because I wanted to breastfeed, it forced me to rest in the afternoons, which was not something that I ever did, because I found that my milk supply would drop in the evenings if I hadn't rested in the afternoons. And so I had to rest because I really wanted to breastfeed my babies for as long as possible. And so becoming a mother really forced me to listen to the rhythm of my body, which was an unfamiliar concept beforehand. Like I would notice for the first time when I was dehydrated, I get that, in my mouth that I probably hadn't noticed before, gulping down too many cups of coffee, but not enough water in my pre-baby days. We're Australians, so we talk about these sorts of things openly, but I remember busting to go to the toilet when I was a new mum. Like I was so divorced from my bodily sensations. So it kind of forces you. Birth certainly forces you. Recovery from birth certainly forces you to be in your body. So I think there's this sort of mental learning, there's a physical learning. And I think certainly for me as an emotionally focused therapist, which is what my background is, there's also a big emotional learning. And the big learning for me there that I would love for other parents to learn is that we have two layers of our feelings. We've got the surface layers of our feelings that we're most aware of, that are most present for us. But underneath that, we have a deeper layer of feelings that often don't get thought about or accessed or felt, let alone spoken about, let alone partner. But the beautiful thing about parenthood is it does make us raw. It does make us too tired to carry the mask. And it's when we shift from those sort of surface feelings, which tend to be more like blame, resentment, frustration, irritation, annoyance, anxiety, that sort of stuff. When we can drop below that, we get to feeling like we need a hug, or feeling like we're lonely, or feeling like we miss the life that we used to have together, or feeling like we miss our partner. And it's these deeper, more vulnerable emotions that actually draw couples in closer. This is the potential of parenthood when we can carve out that time, that space for nesting and cocoon ourselves and create those pauses, is we can drop down into that deeper level of being by becoming more comfortable with that deeper level of being. We really shore up the foundations that we had as a couple, but we also bed them down deeper. Yeah.
I love that. And it strikes me too that it's in this way similar to healthy parenting, right? You're trying to be attuned to your child, trying to figure out, perhaps before they're verbal, what's happening for my child? Why are they crying? Why are they upset? Is the tantrum that they threw in the grocery store really about not being able to get the apple juice? Or is it something else? You're tired, you're happening. And to turn that lens back on ourselves of what are my needs? What is missing for me? And is it just, oh, wow, I'm really resentful of my partner because it seems like they are not doing as much? Underneath that is that other piece of my needs are not getting met, and I feel really alone or isolated in this experience, or something else is happening, and our body is constantly giving us cues. And I feel like so often we are unattached from our body. Its needs are kind of secondary a lot of the time until they become really insistent, right? Like, oh, wow, I'm really hungry, or I'm so exhausted, I can't keep my eyes open. So often I feel like we skip by those needs earlier on, and it can be really detrimental, the same way skipping over those little weeds that need to get pulled in the garden between ourselves and our partner in early parenthood or at any time, really. They don't get pulled up. I just won't say anything, or I'll put it under the rug.
Yeah.
If you address it early on and say, hey, it seems like
Yeah.
this is what I'm feeling. Is this what's happening for you? Or am I misreading it? Checking out our assumptions.
Yeah.
You can clear up things so much faster and get to the good stuff.
That's so important, because we also know from research that misunderstandings in the postnatal period can contribute to mum's depression. So these things that were little and insignificant and maybe didn't grow into anything before the baby came can become more problematic after baby, because we're more sensitive. We're more sensitive, we're more vulnerable. And so again, it's working with this vulnerability rather than against it. It's supporting this vulnerability, it's protecting this vulnerability. And I love what you just said about we learn to be attuned to our children. But before we learn to be attuned to our children, I think we need to learn to be attuned to ourselves and our partner. And we can be doing this during pregnancy. And this prepares us for being attuned to our child, because we're already doing it. We already know how to do it. It's already become our new normal. We don't have to wait until after the baby comes to create our new normal. We can start intentionally creating that space and that support before our baby gets here. By the same token, parenthood is forever. So it's never too late to start making the sorts of changes that we're talking about. It doesn't have to be before the baby comes. In fact, most of the time it happens at some point after the baby comes, when couples realize that what happened before the baby is not working now. And in fact, sometimes maybe the way that they coped with stress before the baby came is actually causing more problems now. If how you coped with stress was playing loud music, or how you cope with stress was going surfing, or how you cope with stress was buying a nice pair of shoes, these things are going to put more stress on a new family. Look, parenthood changes everything. It changes everything, and it's up to each couple to support each other with support, ideally, in navigating those changes. And the most important thing is that the changes don't become relationships. You want relationship adjustments to be stage and not something more permanent. Like, for a lot of reasons, parenthood tends to send each parent on separate paths. And so they need to know how to come back together. And then something will happen and they'll start going like this again, but they've got to come back together. And then something else will happen and they'll go like this again. And so parenthood's like this. And we want to give parents the support and the skills to do that part.
Yeah. And hopefully those times apart become less and less wide, right? Like it becomes more of a crack and less of a crevasse that you're trying to get access to your partner. And so as we get more skilled with learning how to navigate those, harder things can come up, but you can find your way back to each other more quickly, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, Elly, you have some new things happening now with your program, and I understand you're starting with a new book. Do you want to share a little bit about what's happening?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the program is growing, which is very, very exciting. The big picture plan for the program is that couples do just a couple of sessions while they're still expecting to prepare for nest building. And then they'll also have the option of doing the Becoming Us program after their baby comes. So they can either have that before baby support, continuity of care to the after baby support, which is ideal. But if they haven't had the chance to do the before baby sessions, then they can do the after baby sessions. And the sessions really support couples to do all the things that we're talking about, to be able to name the changes, internal, external, tell each other about what's been most challenging for each of them through the changes, and have the skills to really move forward together. So that's happening here, which is very exciting. The next book actually is for couples who are empty nesters. So it's kind of a bookend book to Becoming Us, because I've found in my work and with the therapists and the psychologists that I've worked with and supported, that couples actually go through a similar tumultuous period when their children leave home. And so they're also grappling with, identity, sense of identity, self-esteem, body changes in menopause, more conflict, different choices. It's kind of a crisis time for couples too when the kids leave home. So a bit of a bookend, I suppose, to Becoming Us. But what I'm most excited is being able to offer the nest building sessions to expectant parents and really get them on the front foot and working together and creating their new normal before it arrives.
Mhm.
We've had, I think, about 400 couples go through the training. There are a few places in North America that are starting to offer the nest building sessions, which is very, very exciting. So it's lovely to see it growing, and I feel especially grateful that it's happening at this time. With the pandemic and now everything that's happened since the pandemic, I just think it's really crucial for couples to know how to just turn away, even for just a few moments, with what's going on, and turn towards each other and focus on each other and what they need to not just get through this challenging time, but to get through it stronger together. Mm.
Well, what a beautiful offering that you have put out into the world and are continuing to put out for building our future. The future of humanity really is impacted by how we bring little humans onto the planet and how we support those people who are birthing and raising them. We have the ability to change things on a global scale,
We
and
do.
it's so important. So thank you for doing that work.
Oh, my pleasure. It's beautiful work to do, actually. I love it. It's beautiful work to do. Mm. And thank you, Stephanie, for the work you do too.
We've been speaking today with Elly Taylor. She is an Australian parenthood and relationship expert and author of the award-winning book and program, Becoming Us. Elly, could you please share how people could find out more about you and about your program and all the wonderful things that you're offering?
Sure. I guess the best place to start is the website. It's becomingus.family.com. I think that says it all. I think our world is ripe for recreating community through supporting new families. If I can support that work, I'd love to be able to do it.
Agreed. Thank you so much for being here today, Elly. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Stephanie, for the opportunity. Lovely to meet you finally.
Yes, finally. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Prepared for Parenthood podcast today. I hope you found this episode educational, informational, and conversational, and that you'll join me again for another episode soon. If you enjoyed listening to today's podcast, I'd very much appreciate if you would rate, review, and subscribe. If you're interested in more information related to today's podcast, or are looking for parent coaching or courses, you can find my information in the show notes or online at preparedforparenthood.com.